welcome to the Big Séance podcast. I'm Patrick Keller of BigSeance.com, and this is a place for an open discussion on all things paranormal, but specifically topics like ghosts and hauntings, paranormal research, spirit communication, psychics and mediums, and life after death. So basically, anything that pops up in my paranormal world. The candles are already lit, so you might as well come on in and join the Séance. So my guest today is Marilyn Painter, who I have to tell you is a good friend of mine. She is a psychic medium and a spiritual counselor, and she has a topic that she just is excited to talk about, and that's empowering individuals with methods and tools to deal with lower energies, demons, and possessions. So, Marilyn, we met several years ago, and you've been such a great friend and resource. We've done some experimenting and some investigating together, which is always an amazing learning experience. But let's take some time and have you just introduce yourself to the world and the work that you do.
Okay. My dogs use this time to bark. He's saying hello to everybody. Hello, everybody out there. I'm Marilyn Painter. As Patrick said, I'm a psychic medium, spiritual counselor. I've kind of coined the phrase of energy linguist. An energy linguist is one who knows, understands, or studies the language of energy. And I'm very excited to to talk to you all today.
I am too. This is a first episode, and we got together before we started recording, and we're both very excited about this and nervous and anxious at the same time. So really cool. So in a recent blog post of mine, I discussed demons and possession and my thoughts and feelings about the whole topic. And I know that you've mentioned having different opinions on it all. And unlike me and many of the readers of my blog, you actually have real life experience with it. And I kind of don't know where to begin with it all because it's a huge topic for a first podcast. But
yes. What's
the first thing we need to know about lower energies, demons, and possessions?
Well, first of all, I just want to start off saying that there was a lot of stuff in your blog post that I did agree with.
Oh, good.
And, yeah, especially if I remember back at about Hollywood and it becoming a business and dramatizing and expanding. So definitely in that area. But the one impression is I believe. Hollywood kind of gives us a concept of what it should look like, someone crawling down the steps, crawling up the walls, bugs coming out of the mouth, that all makes for, a really good business where moviegoers get very entertained. But in real life, it is, from the experiences that I've had, less dramatic than that. However, it does tear a family apart, and it wreaks havoc in a family, and also within the person, more on a personal, spiritual, emotional level, which isn't, as we see in Hollywood, it's more on a physical level that we see the changes that are made.
So here's a question when people come to you, do they kind of, if they've had these experiences, do they kind of already know that something like this is going on, or is it something that you guys work together and kind of figure out that maybe they're being affected by some of these lower energies?
Well, I've had experiences where parents have come to me and have noticed, their child not being who they know the child to be. There's changes in the child. The child is now starting to harm himself or herself. The parents sense it when it is affecting the child. Adults come and they say, I'm not feeling like myself. These are the experiences that I'm having. These are the words that are coming out of my mouth. I can't sleep at night. I don't know what's happening. They lose time. They lose space. So there's a knowing that something is not right or something is different than what their normal feel is or their normal thoughts or actions are. And they overall feel heavy and or in a lower energy. So they usually come in desperation that, they've seen doctors, their children have seen psychologists, and this is escalating at a very rapid pace. And they're really just concerned because they just don't know what else to do. And a lot of people who do come, they haven't had an experience with a medium or a psychic. It's just, they said, you know what? It just kind of came to me and this is where I'm pulled. And it's like, I just really needed to contact you. And so I really feel that is higher energies, spirits, guides, working with them, their higher self, kind of giving them that push or that guidance to say, hey, you need help and possibly look into this. So that's mostly how the clients come, mostly in a frantic desperation.
And I know that there's probably some limit to what you can tell us about some of these experiences, but are there some experiences that you could talk about, I guess, in general?
Sure. The one that was most fascinating was a really interesting experience is one of a minor child, I would say around 11 years old, 11, 12. And the mother called and the mother described, what was going on, that the child was harming himself, had glazed over eyes, was trying to choke others, was trying to harm himself, his physical body. His eyes were very glazed over, and it was definitely something she was fearful of, and asked if I could come see him. And she's like, I really have a feeling that there's some darker force or darker energy within him. So I said, sure, I'll give it a try. We'll just go and just see what's going on. And so we as the family came. We definitely, the child, from first sight, I could feel it. It was something, you can feel the difference in an energy from a child's energy of bright and light to there was something very, very heavy just in the presence of the child. So immediately could feel it. So we did what we needed to do. We raised the vibration and, we tried to talk to the spirit. He talked in a different voice. The voice was somewhat altered, but not to the extent as you would see in a, kind of Hollywood movie where it's very exaggerated, but it was definitely not within the tone of voice of the natural voice of the child. So then when we thought that, he came to, he settled down, we could start seeing the color. His color in his face was very pale, very, very pale. You could tell in the screen. It was almost like, it felt like the child's soul itself was set aside. The coloring was drained. The emotions were gone. There was no feeling of emotions that I could scan in the body. But then, I don't know where else to go with that. But
I get it.
Where else to go with that? There's much more to the story. Kind of based on, part of it is there needs to be an agreement. And we got to the point that the energy, whether it's called an entity or a demon, it's all just a label. So really what it is, it's a negative energy that was around the child. The child somehow allowed it to come in through some sort of agreement and has allowed it to enter into the household with him. And after we did what we needed to do, at the very end, the color started coming back a little bit. But then the child went around to the family members and shook their hands. And it was really odd. He walked to each one and held their hands and looked them in the eye.
Wow.
And he skipped me, but went around to all others. And the family's like, oh, he's saying, I'm sorry for all of this. I'm now me. When you think when someone holds your hand and looks you in the eye, it feels nice or okay. But he looked at me and skipped me. Then I left because it was really late at night. And what happened after I left, the child, reached a point that he was trying to burn himself in fire. After I left, things escalated really bad. So the very next day, they brought him back to me, and we were going to do it all over again, and even with more energy. And the mother said that he said that the person possessing him was asked, shook their hand for their agreement for her to stay. It was a female that was within him. That's what the shaking of the hands were, an agreement to stay. The parents didn't understand the agreement nor what they were agreeing to. But holding of hands and eye contact is a form of agreement, of a letting in. And so that gave it permission to stay and come back again.
That is heavy. That is really heavy.
But what was really weird is I saw the look in the eye as it looked at me and looked away. And I knew leaving there that night there was something not right. There was something not right. He was acting like he was okay.
It was a fake out.
But it was a fake out. And that was the only way I think it felt that, okay, these people are going to stop doing what they're doing, because it got very uncomfortable for the child, for the energy within the child. You could tell it was like, okay, well, this isn't going to work, so let me fake him out. And then he solidified the agreement by going to each family member. He didn't need my agreement because I didn't live in the house.
Do you remember the dream that I had after an investigation that you and I worked on with the hand? And it's one of those where I wasn't even for sure if it was a dream. I'll back up to give kind of the listeners. You brought me in on an investigation or something that we were working on with a family, and there were all kinds of claims of things going on. And then a few nights later, I have almost never had any negative experiences or paranormal activity or anything like that, which has probably kind of framed my opinion on, negative entities and demons and stuff like that. But I do remember it's when I had the hand pop up from over the side of my bed while I was sleeping and grab me and shake me, and then it was gone. Do you remember that? And I remember I emailed you the next day, and your feelings were that it was kind of maybe something residual from something kind of left over from that experience, which just for a long time really just kind of blew my mind. I've never had anything happen like that before. Would you say that was one of these lower energies? Do you remember what your thoughts were on that?
And you can tell, I don't remember or recall it, but when you sense such a difference in energy to the point, first of all, it kind of stirs something up on you to that degree. It is definitely a contrast of your energy, and your energy is not low energy. So the effect and the contrast tells you there is something very off from it, at least from your own energy signature. And with the hands, that's one way in which agreements are made, and we can, talk about how these things kind of happen. But there has to be an agreement. And one way is to touch of the body or an emerging of the body. So when they touch you, when you respond in fear or you respond in and you play in that energy or feel in that energy, as soon as there's a connection with the touch, that's another form of agreement. But there's some other things that you can always go back on that agreement, of course. But that is one way in which they try to get an agreement. Through touch in an energetic way.
Well, I certainly hope there was no agreement going on in my bedroom that night. But it did make for some interesting stories. I went back and forth on whether, because I'm a very kind of openly skeptical person, and you know that, and my brain gets to thinking, and was I asleep? Was it kind of a halfway dream? Was there something in my room? Was it... I even went as far as to think, okay, I was on my left side. Was I having a heart attack because I was laying on my left side and sleeping, and that was just my body's way of waking me up so that, my arm didn't, fall asleep more or whatever. So it was interesting, though. I've never had an experience quite like that, and that was a couple of days after we had that investigation.
But do you see that when your intellectual mind doesn't buy into it or negates it, okay, well, it's this, it's that, that's how you don't enter into the agreement, because you don't have that belief system that it's possible. You see where it's difficult then to enter into the agreement. If someone is fearful of possession or negative energies, and it's always on their mind to the point that if some experience like that happens, then they're like, oh my gosh, now I'm going to be possessed. There in that form is an agreement, because just the mere thought that you think it's possible gives them permission that, okay, now it's possible. Do you understand that logic?
Yeah.
Because the thought that if you think it can happen to you and will happen to you, then when an energy comes that wants to, for whatever reason it wants to do, a lot of times it's to, create doubt, create spiritual doubt, to create a fear within you so you're less powerful as a human being. But just the fact that you negate it and say, well, no, it's kind of that, try to rationalize it out, then it's hard for an agreement to set in.
Well, then I'm glad I had that skeptic part of my brain then.
And that's probably why the experiences have been limited with you, because it needs to enter in. There has to be an open, but there's a way in which you can experience it, but not have an agreement for it to be a part of you or to have an effect with you. And we can talk about that and, some of the tools or methods to empower you to where you can have that experience when you're in there so that you can help teach others and help them get through it, but not have it affect you, though.
Yeah. And I guess there's, I saw an article one time that talked about, so many people who have a lot of these experiences with maybe possession or demons or whatever, and you see it a lot of on TV. Sometimes it happens to be that those are the houses that are so kind of crazy serious about their religious beliefs, or they've got the crucifixes hanging all over the walls and things like that. And sometimes maybe the fear of it happening kind of encourages that to go on. Yes, fear. The larger the fear, when you go into it, you can feel the fear. I can hear the fear in the voices of the clients who call, because there was a husband and a wife that called, and they were having extreme difficulty with their home, with doors opening, being pushed down the steps, all kinds of, paranormal activity, seeing things, seeing shadows, sitting on the bed. And just in listening to it, you could just feel the fear, but the fear was also anger mixed in. They wanted to yell at them and demand them to leave. And in that, they are also in a lower energy signature, and like energy attracts like energy. And so it's almost an engagement of a power struggle. And so, it tends to be more of those that are in that fear, as opposed to ones that are just oblivious to it all. Yeah.
So, but yeah, Yeah.
Well, this is probably a good time to take a break, and when we come back, I've got some paranormal hot topics that we can talk about with Marilyn, and then she's going to give us talk about some tools and methods that we can use to for people who may be affected by these lower energies. So we will be back after a brief break.
Okay.
If you like the Big Séance podcast, you might like what's going on over at my blog, bigseance.com. Check it out. I bring up so many nerdy things over there. From there, you can subscribe to the blog by clicking the follow button. You can like the Big Séance Facebook page and find me on Twitter. And of course, you can find links to this and future episodes of the Big Séance podcast. One of the nicest things that you could do to help me out is to share an episode of this podcast with all of your fellow paranerds. I would really appreciate that. Oh, and look for us soon on iTunes. Now, let's go back to, well, whatever nerdy topic we were discussing.
And now it's time for hot paranormal topics. Paranormal hot topics.
Okay, so our paranormal hot topics for today, Marilyn actually has a paranormal hot topic that she is interested in talking about, and she says that she has noticed a huge kind of uptick in men being open to coming in for readings and stuff like that. So Marilyn, what do you want to tell us about that hot topic?
Yeah, it's been interesting, especially within, I would say, the last 2 months, probably 2 months and a half. I've noticed that those that are coming in for spiritual consultations, not just readings, but just coaching sessions, consultation sessions, and of course, readings are mostly men. And I would say it's probably, 2 to 3 men per 1 woman that has been signing up, which is really opposite from when I started this 5-6 years ago. My clientele was predominantly women. So it's been really exciting to see men coming forward and being very interested in, like, for business consultation. To say, how can I run my business in a more powerful way, or more, a way that brings more joy into my life? And how can I be the best father that helps bring more joy and have a more richer experience in my life? So I find that very exciting. To see men stepping forward and wanting to feel, not that men don't feel, but to start, thinking about these things and really search for a more conscious way of existing.
Yeah, that really surprises me, actually. I remember a couple of years ago when I took one of your classes that you offered. And I, of course, I've been the only man in a lot of, I took dance classes forever in childhood, and I was the only boy, sitting there in dance class. So I'm kind of used to it. But that was kind of a random story. But anyway, my son I remember being the only person in your class that was male. So that I can totally see that.
Yes, and lately it's been changing, and like I said, it's very exciting because it's been sort of over the past year or so in the metaphysical world or metaphysical circles of empowerment of women. Women empowering themselves, women nurturing, the energy of women rising. And I feel like for the past year or so or more, the focus has been very much women. There's even sites that only allow women to participate in the classes because it was about women empowerment, which is, very important, very important. But now it's that feeling that like men are joining in. They're joining in, and they're not just kind of rolling their eyes at it and using the intellect. They're starting to soften that intellect and think beyond and be creative. And it's not to say that men weren't originally, but it's just a change. And it's really nice. And it gives me a lot of hope, for businesses and for the future, and for, because men do create a lot of structure. That's the male energy, to create structure. But when you are able to create structure, programs and structures, but add to it the intuitive and spirituality side and the creativity and the nurturing, oh, that's a beautiful combination. And so it's really exciting just that they're even open to finding that about themselves.
Do you think, are there situations where, like, maybe a wife has come in and worked with you and liked the experience, and then kind of brought in her husband? Like, do you sometimes get the men through the women in their lives?
That, yeah, I'm not going to say that doesn't happen, but it does happen. But I would say just the last 2 weeks alone, I've had 2 women clients with possibly six or seven men, and most of them were single. And one of them even, one of them's been taking private training lessons with me, which I do coaching and private training to develop the intuition and gear it towards their specific needs of what they want to do with their job or their career and how to use it. And you're saying that wife is like, who does that? So the wife was so shocked and so surprised. He's like, well, she said, well, who does that? Who seeks out a medium or, psychic for training at your age even? So in that case, just in that particular case, it was really surprising to the wife. So, but it's really refreshing to see.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of cool. So here's my paranormal topic contribution for this episode is actually something I got from Scott Stenwick online in his website, and I'm embarrassed to say I don't even know how to read the name of his website. It's such a kind of a name that is not in my vocabulary. But he did a little article about how the Waverly Hills Sanitorium in Louisville, Kentucky, which has been a huge kind of paranormal nerds love this place. It's been on a lot of, paranormal shows, ghost hunters and things like that. It's apparently going to be turned into a hotel, which in my opinion, even though that's kind of weird because it's going to be a hotel probably because of its paranormal activity, but at the same time, this is one of those situations where I think it's a positive effect of this big paranormal craze because, there was a time where, that building was probably in danger of being demolished or, because of liability insurance or just, dangerous things could happen with an old building. But so it's got some cool pluses to it. It's going to be revived. And then, it's kind of a cool place where paranormal nerds can go and, stay the night and hang out. So apparently it's just been approved and it's in the works. What do you think about that?
Well, definitely, it's exciting, especially on a business side, because it has, the attraction. The attraction to it is definitely there. The excitement, the mystery, the interest is there. But it kind of what comes to me is again, what the people who come there are expecting or feel. They come open saying, "Hey, this is haunted." Of course, it's haunted because it's had all this negative things happening. So when you come with that mindset, you're opening a doorway for those spirits that haven't really left the astral, that are choosing to have an experience here and like that thought. Because with that also is fear. There's a lot that come with fear. Oh, I'm afraid I'm going to stay, and all of that. So it opens the door for probably those that really weren't maybe even passed away there or, lived there once before. So it kind of opens up the portal for that. Plus there's imprint energies of lower energies within the walls, within the wood, because every object absorbs energy. So picking up on that. So it would definitely, it kind of reminds me of, this is something that I always think, in cemeteries or graveyards. When I pass away, I know for a fact that I'm not going to be living at my tombstone. And so even though my physical body is going to be probably, either buried or cremated or whatever is going to happen, I really don't care what happens, when I pass away with my physical body. But let's say it's in the cemetery. I'm not going to hang out there. I'm going to be enjoying spirit world and doing all kinds of wonderful things and fun things. So kind of listening to that with the hotel and, the history behind it, I don't know if I was one of those spirits that really struggled or had a traumatic thing happen to them there when it was sanitarium, that I would want to just hang out there. So I'm not saying there's not going to be paranormal activity. I think the thought that people have and the belief is going to open it up to be almost like a portal or a fun playground for those that, like the spirit said, really like to play in that energy.
So maybe we have some spirits who have decided that, they are cool with hanging out and being a part of a training ground for future paranormal investigators and enthusiasts.
It's just fun to do. If you had infinity, isn't it fun? Don't you like to kind of tease your siblings when you were little or scare them? Or
that you're going to come back and haunt them?
I mean, is it okay? Yeah, this is going to be great. But I don't know. Whether, they would be the same spirits that a negative there in the past and in the history, but also thought. I mean, when you start bringing in the people with the thought and the belief and that they are still there, then those that choose it's like telepathically sending that signal and calling them back. And of course, the spirit has that choice of whether or not they want to engage in that. But hey, it might be fun. So, that I could just see. I think it would be, I kind of look at it like a amusement park of some such. You're going to have fun when you come in with a great attitude. You're going to have an experience when you're expecting the experience. So,
well, let's go back to, that was some fun first paranormal hot topics. Yay! And so let's go back to kind of why we are here having this interview. My next question has to do with the movie The Conjuring, which I've written a lot about, and I know you said you've seen.
Yes.
And it's once again brought the work of Ed and Lorraine Warren, the famous paranormal investigator demonologist duo, back into pop culture again. And I just wanted to know if you were familiar with their famous 3 stages of possession, which is infestation, oppression, and possession. I'm looking on experienceproject.com is where I kind of got these descriptions, but they describe infestation. It says at this level, the demon will start using what may seem like typical intelligent haunting signs. The demon may present itself as the ghost of a loved one or even an angel. The point is to gain trust, so the demonic may influence the person and finally take full control. Some signs of demonic infestation include wrappings, shadows, and shadow-like figures that move with no explanation, the sounds of footsteps, weird liquids that seep through the floor or walls. So that's infestation. And then for oppression, it says when an individual is under demonic oppression, the demon starts to affect the person psychically, and emotionally. The purpose is to cause the individual to give up the fight or will to live and damn their soul. It's said this can be accomplished by suicide. Then the possession category says when an individual hits this level, it is called full possession. The demon or devil now has control over the individual thoughts, emotions, and behavior. The evil is frequently in charge, if not constantly. If or when the person is in control of their body, they usually hear evil voices either threatening them or telling them what to do at times. So that's just kind of the thoughts and opinion, I suppose, of experienceproject.com. What do you think about those categories?
Okay, so it's infestation, oppression. What was the third one?
Possession.
Okay, yeah. Well, very just different vocabulary. just different words, just different labels, but same meaning. The infestation is what I call mostly the agreement stage, where the contract's made. It does the little dance. It does the little serenading. It is there to woo you, to develop that relationship. If you look at it as, a relationship, it comes, it intrigues you. It'll come in any form in which that you are open to it, or curious, even curiosity about it. Or it's trying to do the dance to get the agreement to happen. And so the way what you described in an infestation, some of the extremes that you mentioned could be more for Hollywood, because, like I said, who's going to go see a movie that is without all of that, great fun stuff to watch? But I would say that's the agreement stage, just a different word for it. But yeah, definitely, it's that wooing. It's the way to get you to trust. To trust and to make an agreement for them to come further or be more a part of your life. And then I would say that the oppression stage sounds like to me what I would call a lowering of the person's energy signature. Just kind of like if you think of your body as a radio, and in order to certain stations radio, you have to dial a particular frequency, and lower energies like to get you to match their frequency, and fear gets you into a lower energy. And so anything in that oppression, if you're depressed, if you're fearful, then you're just right at their comfort energy signature. And I feel that that's probably what that's all about, in order to make it easy, comfortable, and a smooth, full locked-in relationship between you and them. And so then the possession, the full control is when the energy actually starts, the agreement, fulfilling the agreement. You allowed it, and now it's doing what its agenda is.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just the fulfilling of the agreement. And the agreements are very, very slick, tricky. You're like, I didn't agree to it. But then when you go back and you look at it and say, oh, okay, yeah, I guess I kind of did let that in. And agreements are made through thoughts, actions.
When I look back through the description I just read of the infestation stage, or what you would refer to as like the agreement stage, it concerns me that people maybe just kind of general spirit activity that they would have, of great Aunt Jane, coming back and rapping on the walls, or just your average Joe ghost walking through your hall, causing footsteps and sounds. And it's a concern of mine sometimes that I think people jump to the conclusion that it's a demonic energy, or
yes,
they've got demon activity in their house, when really it could just be a spirit, or just plain old energy. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, my thoughts is that when lack of knowledge causes fear, and just pure and simple, just it's not every day. It's not every day this stuff happens to you. It's nothing we learned in school or that we were taught how to handle. And it's not a common open thing to say, oh yeah, spirits are in and out of my house. It's cool. I'm comfortable. It's just an everyday, ordinary experience. So it's not. So it causes fear. So, we fear what we don't know, So I think that that's it. And so when you cause fear, it instills fear in you because it's something you're not familiar with, that you don't know. And it seems to be the trend that most people jump to fear before they jump to, oh, it's a light fairy that's coming in, and it's a beautiful experience, or, that it just seems like people jump on protection. I'm being threatened. And when you think about it in everyday life, it's kind of like, to some extent, for some people, a battlefield with every day. I got to protect myself. I feel threatened by this person. I feel threatened by society. I feel threatened by my government. I feel threatened. There's always that guard that's up. So it just seems more natural that would be the predominant response, that if something odd is happening, you need to protect yourself. You feel threatened. There's a signature of fear. And just because that's common here. And that's why the thought goes there first.
So let's get into really the meat of, how you can help us. What are some of the methods and the tools that you recommend for people who might feel that they're affected by these lower energies?
Okay. Yeah. Well, the first thing that I make clear is that I am not a savior, and no one's going to really, it's not their place to fix it for you. Because ultimately, if you're the one having the experience or it's your home, it is yours to take care of. And so you have to step into your own power. So what I like to help do is like we said, give these tools, guide you, but you have to do it because it's linked to your thoughts, your beliefs, it's your home. So the very first thing is I let them know is you got to get rid of the fear, because it's in the fear that creates most of the agreements that are happening. And when you're acting out of fear, like let's say, well, I've yelled at it and I've told it to leave and I said it's not welcomed in here. Well, what does that happen? You're yelling because you feel threatened. When we don't feel threatened, we don't yell. We talk nice and calm, right? And so that's a part of fear. So first of all, eliminate the fear. Calm yourself down. Raise your vibration. Now, the second part is know your own power. Know your own power. Know that most of us think that what we don't know or we can't see is more powerful than us. We've been taught that through religion, that they hold the power. They have some kind of mystical power or more power than us. So when you have that thought, then you feel victim. That you feel that stuff can happen to you without even you like it just happens, like you have no control. So know your own power, because that's not the case. It's only the case if you believe it to be so, because there is no energy more powerful than you, and there is no energy less powerful than you. So when you wrap your head around that concept and you see that there really is nothing to fear, that you are not victim to, then it raises your energy and it wipes away the fear, because you no longer feel threatened because you're confident in yourself. So eliminate the fear, know your own power, that you're just as powerful. Nothing's more powerful or less powerful. And what that does is that creates a thought form that you cannot be harmed. Because as soon as you think you can be harmed, and that comes from a place of powerlessness, that gives permission for it to happen. Let's say that there's a very dark energy lingering within my house, and I'm thinking, okay, it's going to come possess me. It's going to come possess me. It's going to come possess me. Just the thought or saying that is telling it can, because you believe it can. So in that is an agreement. You see? Mm-hmm. So the belief that it will come is a lowering. So know your own power. The second one is, once you get yourself set that said, okay, well, I'm not a victim. I am very empowered. I can handle this. Nothing's going to happen that I don't want to happen. You take away all the fear that you have. Then sit there and scan where you made that agreement. What did I do, say, or think that gave permission for this energy to affect me in a way that it does? Scan it. It could be, like you said, the hand coming up. If you actually believed when it happened, if your thoughts were, I am now possessed, then it probably would have happened. Mm-hmm. That's the agreement. Okay, then once you find where the agreement is, just the mere thought that it is going to affect me, it is going to haunt my house for the rest of my life. It's going to ruin my life. It's going to wreak havoc. It's not going to, my house can't sell now. And once you think about that, then you create that, and it's given it permission then to do all that to you. So find out where you made the agreement. Once you find out where you made that agreement, then break it. Put it in void. Cancel it. Okay? Change the thought form. That's how you break it. That's how you break the agreement. It's just like a breaking up in a relationship, you know? Once you find out that, hey, I used to be invested in the relationship, but it's just not quite working out for me, then you break up, okay? And some don't believe they have the power to do that. And see, again, there comes power. I'm powerless. I can't say I'll break up. So then a lot of people try and they start yelling at the spirit and saying, I want you gone out here. But living in the fear and the voice is still, the spirit says, she's still afraid of me. She still must think then I have the ability to do whatever I'm doing, so I'm going to stay. So how do you break the agreement? You break the agreement by being very neutral, staying in your peace, staying in your power, staying in your light, very calmly say that I break our agreement. It's void. You no longer can occupy the home. Thank you, for this experience, but it ends right now. And you let go. Now, most people, when it happens, because you're saying it out of love, okay? You're saying it out of love. Your children don't listen to you when you're yelling and screaming at them, but they do. People do listen when you're talking calmly and you're speaking from the heart. So if you look at it as a relationship that you're not fearful, it just happens that the relationship you're in is one has a physical body, which is you, and the other one doesn't. That's all. But it's a relationship. And so you sit and you talk calmly and you say, break the agreement. I break up with you. So break up with them. Now, what happens? What happens when you break up? Well, sometimes breakups go smoothly and sometimes they don't. Sometimes people don't want to go. They kick and they scream. They do all kinds of things to try and salvage and save the relationship. Well, that's when what I call, the spirits start acting up more. They start doing more. They start slamming doors more. They start influencing your lives more. It almost like, so then what do you think? Oh, these methods don't work. You see what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. You start thinking it. Oh, this doesn't work, And then when you say it doesn't work, then what you're doing is then you're making an agreement that, well, they don't work, so you can now affect me. You see, you just got to hang in there with it. It's tolerance. It's standing your ground. It's testing. It's trying to woo you again. Do you see how the cycle starts again? It's trying to woo you again when the activity then increases. Hang in there, and it'll get tired. Stand your ground. Stay centered, stay fearless, know your power, keep your energy up, speak from love, and it's not going to want to be there anymore because it's no longer fun or it's no longer, you're not a viable, they have a reason they do what they do, okay? They have an agenda, they have a goal. Just like everything you do, you have an agenda, you have a goal.
So you say, go throw your pouty fit, and I'm just going to go finish the laundry. Yeah.
Go.
Just like you would with a kid.
just like a relationship. If we take away the fear and look at it like a relationship, and it's kind of a new concept. I mean, people say, well, I don't have a relationship with spirit. It's got to be demonic. It's got to be negative. It's got to be so threatening and life-threatening to me. It's very different than my fear. It's causing havoc. It's like an intruder. It doesn't have to be that way. You don't have to agree to that. So if you look at it, change your perspective. A lot of things that people go into suffering and it makes their world heavy is the perspective that they keep and how they see their world and their reality. Where the same thing could be happening to another person, but their perspective is different and they see it at different angles, would not be suffering. So change your perspective. Treat it like a relationship with kindness and be firm and say, okay, we're done. Go on. Sometimes people call higher energies in, higher spiritual energies in, like Archangel Michael and his legion. And, invoke help. It's just when you're having a relationship and you're having someone that just can't say no, you call in your girlfriends, you call in your guy friends, you gather your team, you get help, you get support. And so, absolutely, I support, I believe that there are very strong light beings that are here to help. But unless you ask, you've got to ask, because here in this world and in our existence is our own playground, and we create our own reality. And so without permission and without asking, intervention does not step forth, because it is your playground and your experience and your learning experience. So yeah, sometimes you need to get support, just like we call our families in time of need and say, hey, can you help me out here? But you're not going to do it for me. We're going to do it together. And that's one thing too, because, having someone do it for you is an energy of powerlessness within yourself. Like, you can't do it. You're weak, you're victim, you don't know, you're not powerful enough. When you're asking someone to step forward and do it for you. Do you see that? Yeah.
So Hollywood has basically, led us to believe that we have no power in these situations.
Yes.
Which then, affects us in the real world. Yeah.
Where's the, you gotta have, the bad that happens.
the climax of the activity.
Yeah.
So do you have anything else to share with those tools and methods?
Let's see. The other thing is that it's very easy to cancel out. I do have one thing when it involves a minor or a minor child. Somewhere within there, the child, either out of curiosity or also willingness to help. Sometimes they come forth as, they play on a child's heart or play on a child's sensitivity to where they come and they're needy. I need you to help me, or I'm in pain, or, because children are very sensitive and can feel the energies very strongly, and they sometimes can even see them, and they present themselves in an ailing or needing way, and a child wants to help console them or help them, since that's how the child lets in the agreement. But when a child, in order to break the agreement, the child needs to have an understanding. And some children are too young and they don't quite have an understanding of what's going on. But from my experiences of what we did and experience with the child is that the parents have a contract with that child to protect the child. So that's when the parents step in and make that claim and break the agreement for the child, because the child is minor. And on a spiritual level and a soul level, when you have a child, that is a contract in of itself to nurture, to raise, to be there for that child, and to step in as it's growing and learning and developing into its full self. So that I want to say, that's where parents step in. That's where parents step in and say, hey, we claim we break the contract. We recognize there was one made, and we're going to avoid it right now. But by all means, we do, I did talk with the child, and it really helps for the child to have an understanding if they're old enough, and to say, hey, but this child struggled with letting it go. The one that I worked with struggled with letting the energy go. And so that was also something that we talked about and we worked on. But the parents stepped in.
And there might just be, some parents listening right now who are curious about some, stuff going on in their home or with their child. And so this is good. This gives them some things to think about.
Yeah. And I would say, a lot of relatives that have passed, I get many reports with parents saying, my child's in the room and they're talking and they say they've seen this person and that and this, and I don't know, is it a good energy? Is it grandma and grandpa? Is it, just watch your child and see if you are feeling any fear in them or afraid. If the child starts acting in a negative way or a heavy way, then what they're talking with or what is floating around in their room isn't for their best interest. And with a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, they're just playing what they see, like it's a playmate or such. So that's when the parents step in and the parents can sit in the room with the child and say, whatever agreement has been made, I'm acting on behalf of my child because I have a contract with my child to make discernments of what is in his best interest. And when you say that and say, it is in the best interest of my child that I'm using my discernment and my, privilege with this contract to release you and say that it is no longer permitted for the relationship to continue. And you speak on behalf. And then do that for several days without fear. Okay. And believe it when it happens. So
empower yourself.
Yes. Quick. There's nothing more powerful than you. And I think that's something that I think a lot of people struggle with, because as a society for a long, long time has felt that powerlessness.
Well, Marilyn, you rock. I love you. Tell us where the world, I could text you, all day if I wanted to, but
Sure.
Tell us how the world can find you or go to learn more.
Sure. My website is ahsanctuary.com, and it's AHTAH sanctuary.com, and that's where there's a list of all the services that I do provide. Also on there, you could click on the Facebook like button and like my page. I give some tools, and we talk. That's where all the services are that I provide that you can get in contact with. I do readings, mostly soul consultations. I also do a lot of coaching sessions and private training sessions, one-on-one sessions. So that's pretty much where I can be contacted. But mostly the philosophy is empowerment. I'm not here to do for you, but possibly shed some light and give some clarity and bring through clarity so that you can start, evolving and living a lighter life.
Well, thank you, Marilyn. You rock.
Thank you.
Well, our time has come to an end for this very first week. We all survived, and I want to thank Marilyn Painter for being with us. How very brave she is. For show notes, including links to anything we may have mentioned in this episode, visit bigseancepodcast.com. And very soon, you'll be able to find us and subscribe on iTunes. Do you have any comments or thoughts? Please contact me at patrick@bigseance.com. I could decide to include them in a future show. Don't forget to visit my blog, bigseance.com. Thank you so much for listening and reading. Unfortunately, it's time to blow the candles out, but we'll see you and light them again next time.